So welcome to this fourth and the final session of the summary of fifth Adhyaya of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We start with the gratitude to the Lord and to our Guru Parampara, to which this knowledge has been preserved, protected and passed on from generations. I pay my tributes and respects to Guruji, Pujya Sri Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn these scriptures and pass on this understanding with you all. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So before going to the summary of the fifth Adhyaya, let us recapitulate what has been so far happened in Srimad Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Mahabharata. In the first Adhyaya, Arjuna came to fight this war with a lot of courage, strength and positive energy. However, when he asked Shri Krishna to take his chariot to the center of the battlefield, when he saw his relatives in front of him, he developed his mamakar, mamatva, moha. And this was the root cause of how he became confused, how he came under stress. He had a stress response and he could not see, he could not understand what needs to be done, what should be done, what should not be done. He became confused. And then he becomes a disciple of Shri Krishna. In the second Adhyaya, in the 7th shloka, when he says, Shishyastveham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam, and he becomes a disciple of Shri Krishna. The second Adhyaya, from the 11th shloka, Ashotyanan Vashochastvam, Shri Krishna gives the Atmagnana Updesha to Arjuna. And then from the 31st shloka starts the Karma Yoga part, 47th and the 48th shloka. As you know, Karmanye Vadikaraste Mahapaleshu Kadachana, the principles, Chatur shloka of Karma Yoga. And then finally, after Arjuna's question about Sthita Prajna, he starts the Sthita Prajna Takarana from 54th shloka till the 72nd shloka. He talks about what is the ultimate goal, how is that wise person who is enlightened, who is Gnani, how does he behave, what is his understanding. The third Adhyaya was more detailed description of Karma Yoga, where Lord Shri Krishna describes all the attitudes of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is not work which is shown or done outside. It is a skill, it is an attitude which is inside when we do our karma. So we don't have to change our karma, but we have to learn to do this karma in such a way that these karmas don't bind us. They are done with particular attitudes. And then in the fourth Adhyaya, there is a lot of talk about the Jnana, Prakarana and the Karma. How with this understanding, if we can do this Jnana, with this understanding, if we can do the Karma, we can go from Karma to Akarma. That is Karma Sannyasa. Jnana se Karma Sannyasa, Akarma tak. How do we reach that place? So the third Adhyaya, the attitudes of Karma Yoga were very well described. One is surrender to the Lord, Ishwararpana Bhava. Whatever we do as our Kartavya Karma, as our Dharma Karma, as our Swa Karma, we should try and surrender to the Lord, to please the Lord, and as if it is His order. He has given me this duty, He has given me this role, different roles in this life where I have to do my role in the best possible way. As being a nimitta, as being an instrument in this entire cosmic, the universe, where everybody has been given their own role, and we should do it so that we don't get attached to it, attached to the karma phala. We don't get the kartrutva abhimana behind this karma that I am the doer, and we do perform all our several duties, our roles in life in the best possible way. And wherever we get fruits of the actions, We understand that this is a prasad from the Lord. We accept it as a prasad buddhi. So we accept prasada and share it with everyone else. So these are the attitudes of Karma Yoga. In the 4th Adhyaya, Krishna talks about the incarnations, why he incarnates, yada yada hi dharmasya, glanir bhavati bharata, for dharma, for pratisthana. Then paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam. So all this, why he incarnates, what is his original swarupa and how he comes with the yoga maya, how he incarnates, he talks about that. And then he talks about the actions of the jnani and their virtues, their attributes of a jnani, and then describes the 12 yagnas, how we can think everything is Brahma, everything is the Lord, how we can see His grace everywhere in this universe. And finally he talks about the Jnana Mahima. So from the last 8 shlokas are regarding the Jnana part. But in the final shloka of the 4th Adhyaya, the 42nd shloka, finally, after talking all these karma, jnana, Shri Krishna tells Arjuna, Tasmat ajnana sambhutam, Ritstam jnanasinatmanaha, Chitvainam sanshayam yogam, Atishto tishta bharata. Means, Arjuna, the root cause of all the problems is ignorance, ajnana. So with the help of your jnana sina, just like the sword of knowledge, you kill all your doubts, all your sanshaya. They are there in your Atmana, you have to kill them, you have to destroy them, and then you stand up. Yogam atishta uttishta bharata. So he says, you do your karma yoga, stand up, get ready and fight this war. Do your dharma yuddha. So the final message is, do your karma. And that's why Arjuna gets confused. He's still not very clear whether I should fight the war or whether I should do karma sannyasa and go and learn and devote myself to this jnana sadhana and understand this self-knowledge. So he's confused. And the 5th Adhyaya starts with this confusion of Arjuna. The first shloka is his question again, his doubt he creates between Sankhya Yoga, the knowledge, and the Karma Yoga. So what is better? Karma sannyasa is better, whether I should take sannyasa, renunciate and go for this jnana sadhana, or whether I should be a grahastha, do my karma, do my duties, whatever kartavya is given to me, what is best for me. And in the first 6 shlokas, Lord gives these answers and he shows how both of them are the same. It's not adequate or not proper to see both as differences. And then he talks about the attributes of a Sankhya Yogi, a Karma Yogi, talks about the Jnana Yoga and a Karma Sannyasa. So basically this is a Sannyasa Yoga or a Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And finally the 3 shlokas are related to Dhyana, meditation. And this is a link to the 6th Adhyaya, which is the Dhyana Yoga. So let us start with the first shloka of the 5th Adhyaya. To summarize the entire 5th Adhyaya, I would recommend that you please go through all the previous presentations, 3 presentations of the 5th Adhyaya before seeing this presentation, because this is more like a summary of what has been said. The detailed description of each and every word or the meaning is given in the individual sessions. Arjuna uvacha sannyasam karmanam krishna punarayogam cha shansasi yachreya etayorekam tanme bruhim sunishchitam. So Arjuna asks this question, whether karma sannyas is better, Krishna, or yoga, karma yoga is better. What should I do? You have first praised karma yoga and you have also praised karma sannyasa, so I am confused. Please tell me what is beneficial for me. एक बताओ मुझे कि मुझे क्या करना है. Don't please confuse me. Don't tell me this is also good, this is also good. Tell me one thing that I need to do. And this shows Arjuna's confusion. It also shows that he is willing to learn. It also shows that he is ready to ask questions wherever his confusion is there. He wants to clear his doubts. And in Vedanta philosophy, this clarity is very, very important. And that is how most of the Upanishad Jnana is transmitted between the Guru and the Shishya, by the Shishya asking questions to the Guru and the Guru clearing the doubts. So this has been the parampara of our Jnana parampara, how with questions and answers this confusion is cleared. So Bhagavan says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sannyasa karma yogascha nishreyasakaravubhau tayostu karma sannyasa karma yogo vishishyate. So Lord Krishna tells him that both are good. Both karma sannyasa, renunciation and karma yoga, both are shreyasa karavubhau. Both will lead to kalyana. Both are shreyas. Shreyas marg means it leads to mukti, it leads to freedom. That is a shreyas marg. All the other three marga, the dharma, artha and kama, are the preyas marg. They don't lead to freedom. If one wants complete freedom from all these worldly miseries, then one needs to take the shreyas marg, which is the shreya marga, which is the kalyana marga. So he says, Shri Krishna says, both karma sannyasa and karma yoga, both will lead to shreyasa, both will lead to your upliftment, both will lead to your betterment, you will be able to achieve your ultimate goal. But out of the two, he says, karma sannyasa, karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga is better. He says it is superior than renunciation of actions. So here in Gita ji, karma yoga is always praised because the adhikari is the Arjuna, and through Arjuna all of us, most of us are adhikari for karma yoga because we are all engrossed in our actions day in and out, every moment. We do a lot of karma, all different types of nimitta karma, naimittika karma, all the different kinds of karma we have to do, kartavya karma. And that's why for us karma yoga is the most sulabha. Sulabha means sarala, easier path for achieving the divinity, rather than going through the sannyasa marg, which is a more difficult marg for the person who is not yet matured. So based on the adhikarikva, Lord Krishna says here that karma yoga is vishishyate, it is a better for you than karma sannyasa, so it's better you do karma yoga. And there is an eligibility for renunciation. Everybody cannot take renunciation, everybody cannot be a sannyasi, because this person must be matured enough. He must have neutralized his raga, dvesha, faced with viveka and vairagya, and he must have developed sanyama and control over his mana, indriya, must have significantly reduced his expectations and desires from this world, must be able to enjoy isolation, be in isolation, not be lazy, and devote his time to jnana sadhana, and remains tatastha in the worldly affairs. If this as the characteristics are met, then that person is eligible, suitable, is a candidate for sannyasa. Otherwise, for most people, 99%, more than 99% of people will be eligible only for karma, because they will not have this kind of characteristics, that kind of tivra vairagya which is necessary to become a sannyasi, and then one pointedly determine yourself to this jnana marga. It will not be possible for most people, and that's why karma yoga is a much easier part, because in living in this world, in this pravrutti, we will have a lot of experiences, and through these experiences, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we work, the way we do our karma, the attitude with which we come above this dvandva, samatva, achieve samatva, and neutralize our raga, dvesha, that will help us. So these are the eligibility for sannyasa. Jneyah sa nitya sannyasi yo na tveshti na kankshati nirdvandvo hi mahabaho sukham bandhat pramuchyate. So he says here that praises and equates karma yogi and sannyasi, and says that a person who does not have strong raga dvesha, know that he is a nitya sannyasi, he is a ever sannyasi. So he talks about karma yogi and equates him to a sannyasi, and he says nirdvandvohi sukham bandhat pramuchyate. By getting above his strong likes and dislikes, raga dvesha, remaining in samatva, having titiksha, he gets an eternal bliss. So he says that a karma yogi, when he practices karma yoga and becomes nirdvandva, means is not affected by too many dualities of the world like mana, apmana, sukha, dukkha, raga, dvesha, all these dualities don't affect him, then he is the person who is a ever sannyasi, is a nitya sannyasi, and he is the person who gets sukham, bandhat pramuchyate, gets eternal bliss. So he equates and praises karma yoga and karma sannyasa. And then says, Sankhya yoga pruthak bala pravadanti na panditaha ekamapyastita samyaga ubhayor vindate phalam. He says it's the right understanding which is important. And he says Sankhya and yoga they give different fruits. That is said by Pruthak Bala. Bala means children. People who are not knowledgeable, children are generally immature, and that's why it is said that. And here the Bala would mean people who don't understand the scriptures. What scriptures try and say, they will say that, oh, Gnana Yoga Sannyas is different marg, it's a Nivrutti marg, and this Karma Yoga is a Pravrutti marg. This is different. Here, these are both are at loggerheads. They both are opposite to each other. This kind of understanding is by immature people, not by Panditaha. Panditaha, knowledgeable people, don't think like this. Ekam apyastita ubhayo vindate phalam. One is determined on one path. Then for both, the final result is the same. You have to choose the one path and be determined on the one path. May it be karma or may it be jnana. So in our scriptures, it is said that even while you are in the pravrutti dharma, you are in the home, you have not taken sannyasa, but you can still, from karma, you can go to jnana and reach your ultimate target or ultimate goal of life. So jnana is the ultimate way or the ultimate window towards moksha or complete freedom. And to reach this, you can take the karma path or you can take the sannyasa path. Both these paths, the jnana sadhana is common, and the phala, the final fruits, moksha, jnana, say moksha, that is the same. So it's the right vision is that both these are not divergent paths, but both the paths actually meet again and they lead to jnana and moksha. Yat sankhya prapyate sthanam tadyogairapi gamyate ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sapashyati. So he says, what is the true vision? The true vision, he says, the goal is that jnana will lead to moksha. So yat sankhya prapyate sthanam, the state or the place where jnana will take you, the same state can be achieved by karma yoga. So both of them will lead to your same place ultimately. Both look like the different paths, but actually they will merge and they will become one finally. Ekam sankhyam cha yogam cha yah pashyati sapashyati. So one who knows very well that knowledge and karma yoga, sankhya and karma yoga, both achieve the same state, same destination. He is the person who has a true vision. He knows truly. So yah pashyati sa pashyati. What you can truly see is this is what is the truly the vision. That's what Lord Krishna says, that both of these are not divergent paths. Both of these will ultimately merge and lead to your same destination. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptuma yogataha yoga yukto munir brahma nachirena adhigacchati. So here Lord Krishna says that if somebody takes immature karma tyaga or karma sannyasa, then it can be very painful. It can be really be miserable. Ayogataha, somebody who has not practiced karma yoga, one who has not practiced karma yoga, if he takes sannyasa, renunciates, then it is dukkham aptum. It gives a lot of pain and misery because he does not enjoy isolation, wants a lot of company, wants people, wants relationship, is lazy, is not able to devote all his energies towards shastra, abhyasa, atmajnana, is not able to do guru seva, then for that person sannyasa is useless. Yoga yukta muni brahma nachirena adhigacchati. But a muni, yoga yukta, who practices karma yoga, is a muni, is mananashila, his mind is completely devoted towards the Almighty, divine, and he practices karma yoga even while he stays in the house and the home, and then he purifies himself and shuddhi karne ke baad he achieves atmajnana and he achieves liberation without any time. So it takes time for a karma yogi to purify his inner self. Antakarana shuddhi takes a very long time. In the sadhana, in the spiritual journey, the stages are that first we have to get from karma, we have to become karma yogi by the right understanding which is necessary. That is the first part. Second part is from karma yogi we have to go to the next level, that is the antakarana shuddhi, which is essential. By doing karma yoga, bhakti yoga, dhyana yoga, we have to purify our inner self. That is the next step. And once the antakarana is shuddha, after sadhan chatushya sampatti, viveka, vairagya, shama, adi shat sampatti and mumukshu, all these have been done and antakarana has become shuddha, inner self has been purified. Then the next step is to get the jnana sadhana, shravana, manana and nididhyasana to reach the ultimate atmajnana, to nivrutta, to relinquish the ajnana, moha and achieve moksha. So this is the entire journey. And in this journey, the maximum time it takes is to achieve this Antakarana Shuddhi. Once Antakarana is Shuddha, Atmagnan does not take a long time. That is what Lord Krishna is saying here. Achirena Gacchati. Adhigacchati means it doesn't take much time. Immediately he will achieve liberation or moksha. So it's not that a Karma Yogi immediately achieves moksha. That is not the meaning. The meaning is that Karma Yogi takes a very long time to achieve Antakarana Shuddhi. But once Antakarana Shuddhi happens, the moksha is in no time. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna talks about the link from Karma Yoga to self-knowledge. How we can go from the sadhana, with the help of these sadhana, how we can achieve the sadhya or the goal of our life. It says, Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma Vijitatma Jitendriyaha Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Kurvannapi na Lipyate. So it says, Yoga Yukto Vishuddhatma. So person who practices Karma Yoga, that is the main purpose of doing Karma Yoga, that he purifies his inner mind. Because with the attitudes of Karma Yoga, his Raga, Dvesha, all his vices, Kamana, Krodh, all the vices will be gradually dissolved, and he purifies his inner mind, because that is very important to achieve any kind of knowledge. Vijitatma, Vishuddhatma becomes Vijitatma. Vijitatma Bhavati means he achieves a victory over his inner self, because he develops a control over his mind, his senses, his intellect, and his buddhi becomes sthir, one-pointed, and he develops this, and this victory is the true victory for true success for any person. And this person is called Jitendriya, because he has achieved this control over his inner self with his own senses, because Indriya are the most chanchala, and Indriya creates all the problems, and that's why the mana remains disturbed, chanchala. So that's why this control of our own self occurs with our own mind over our Indriya. And this person becomes Sarva Bhutatma Bhutatma Bhavati, means that he sees oneness everywhere. He sees the same consciousness, the eternal, the cosmic consciousness everywhere, and that is the ultimate knowledge that he develops. That he himself is the soul of everything, he himself is a part of this cosmic consciousness, and he sees oneness out of all the differences or the multitudes of forms and shapes. He can see the one Adhisthana or Chaitanya. So that is the knowledge that he achieves. And in such a person, even while he is in action, Kurvannapi na Lipyate, does not get bound by these actions, because he understands that he is not the Karta. The Karta is this Anatma, Sharira, Indriya, Mana, Buddhi, but he is the Atma Swarupa, which is Akarta, which is not doing anything, is not attached. This he can see very clearly, and with this is a result of this Atma Jnana, that he, in spite of living in this world, doing all the actions, does not get attached or bonded to any of his actions. And what is that understanding? Next two shlokas, Lord Krishna says, what is that understanding of the wise? How does he not get attached? Even though he lives in this world, even after he gets this Atma Jnana, he lives in this world, he does all the karma, he does all the actions. So in these two shlokas he says, Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavita Pashyan shrunuvan spushan jigran ashnan gachan swapan shwasan pralapan visujan gruhanan unmishan nimishannapi indriyatheshu vartanta iti dharayan. So he says, he uses two words, yukta and tattvavita. Both are these words are used for the wise person. And what is his understanding? He says, while doing all these activities, actions, he uses his Jnanendriya to see, to listen, for touching, for smelling, all these Jnanendriyas. He uses all his Karma Indriyas for eating, walking, sleeping, breathing, all his voluntary as well as involuntary actions like speaking, forgetting, accepting, opening eyes, closing eyes. All these actions, while he does, he believes that Indriyani Indriyartheshu Vartanta iti Dharayani. He firmly understands that this is all that the sense organs, Indriya ke arth mein jate hai, contact hota hai, means that this is all happening in the Anatma Kshetra, and I am not doing anything. Naiva kinchit karomiti. I am not doing anything, I am Anatma, and that is his clear understanding. So with this understanding, it does not get attached to the karma. So that is the main difference between the wise and the unwise, the Gnani and the Ajnani. The wise identifies with the Atma, and that's why he is free of Kartrutva Abhiman and he is also free of Karma Bandhan. Whereas the unwise Ajnani, he always gets identified with the Anatma. He is not identified with his true self, but is identified with his body-mind complex, the Indriya, Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara. And with this, whenever he does action, he does it with a lot of Ahankara, pride, Kartrutva, Bhavana, and this results in the bondage of the karma. So that is the main bondage of the karma. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha lipyate na sapapena padmapatra mivambhasa. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna talks about the different aspects of karma yoga. Again talks about the attitudes of karma yoga, and he says this person who does his karma, who does his actions with a surrender, Brahmani adhaya yaha karmani, surrenders all actions to the Lord, that is the Ishvara Arpana Bhavana. Second is Sangam Tyaktva Karotiha, and performs all actions without getting bound to the fruits or karma phala, and accepts all the karma phala as prasada buddhi, that the fruits are like prasada. Whatever comes to him, whether he likes it or does not like it, he accepts all the situations, all the actions, all the fruits of the actions of karma phala, he accepts this. Lipyate na sapapena, does not get bound to any sins and lives like a lotus leaf lives in water. Padma patram ivambasa means lotus leaf lives in the water but does not get wet, neither it subsists on water but does not get affected by water at all. Even if you put a drop of water on the lotus leaf, it will just fall off and it does not affect the lotus leaf. So lotus leaf lives like that, and similarly a wise person lives like that. He lives in this sansara which is full of karma, this jagata which is where everybody is involved in that karma, but he lives in such a way like a lotus leaf lives in water. So here he says Abhiman, the Kartrutva, the pride, and Asakti towards the karma phala, these are the two biggest problems. The Kartrutva Abhiman can be reduced by doing Ishwararpana Bhavana and Nimitta Bhavana, whereas Asakti and attachment to the karma phala can be relieved by accepting the prasada, karma phala as a prasada buddhi. So with these attitudes, if we live, then this will not bind us. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalairindriyairapi yoginah karma kurvanti sangam tyaktvatma shuddhaye. So what is the main benefit of karma yoga? Lord Krishna says here, it is antakarana shuddhi, atma shuddhi is the main purpose of doing karma yoga. Karma yogi performs selfless action with his body, mind, intellect. Kevalai indriya repi means kevala indriya. Kevala indriya means it is the indriya without the raga dvesha, without the previous sanskara. If it works like this, then this person is able to do all his karma without getting attached to the Sangam Tyaktva, without getting attached to the fruits of the action, and the purpose is mainly for Atma Shuddhi. So Atma Antakarana Shuddhi or purification of the inner mind, which is the most important prerequisite for achieving self-knowledge. Atma Jnana cannot come without Antakarana Shuddhi. It is what is said by Upanishada that only there is Shuddhi, because Shuddhi is very, very important. Unless there is Shuddhi, this kind of understanding, this kind of thinking, this kind of understanding or knowledge cannot be assimilated. So Atma Jnana can only come if there is inner purification, and inner purification can only happen if we have practiced Karma Yoga. So this is the link, that from Karma to Karma Yoga, Antakarana Shuddhi, and along with Karma, of course, Karma done with a real Karma Yoga attitude is a Bhakti. So Ishwara Arpana Bhav, Prasad Buddhi is part of Bhakti. So Karma and Bhakti are taken together, that Karma, Bhakti both are important, and then this will lead us to the purification of our mind and then ultimately to Atma Jnana. So what is the difference between wise and the unwise? We have already seen this, that wise is free from Kartrutva, is firmly established in the Akarta Atma Swarupa, is not bound to karma phala, and that's how he is liberated from this karma phala sansara chakra. Whereas the unwise falsely identifies with his body mind complex, thus pride, asakti, mithya abhimana, and gets bound to the karma, sukha dukkha rupa sansara, gets bound and remains in this and keeps coming back again and again. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shanti mapnoti naishthikam Ayuktah karma karena phale sakto nibadhyate. So here Lord Krishna talks about two persons, Yukta and Ayukta. And this is one word he loves, Yukta. Yukta karma phalam tyaktva. With awareness, the karma yogi renounces all the results or the fruits of action. And what does it get? What does it benefit? How does it benefit out of it? He achieves the eternal peace. Shantim apnoti naishtikam. Naishtikam means which stays there, everlasting peace. And this is what he achieves, the karma yogi. Because as his raga dveshas become neutralized, his mind becomes quite quiet, still. He accepts whatever is given. He sees the larger design of this universe, and that's how he becomes much more quieter. So on the journey, the spiritual journey, a sadhaka will feel this as he practices karma yoga. His mind becomes more and more quiet. He is able to accept, feel the inner peace amongst all the commotion and the noise. And what happens to the ayukta? Ayukta kama karena. He is unaware. This person acts by his own desires, selfish motives, and he phale sakto nibadhyate. He remains attached to the results of the whatever karma he is doing. So yukta is a person who is aware about his pride, kartrutva. He believes that we should do it with the nimitta bhavana so that we can neutralize our kartrutva. He is not attached to the karma phala. Asakti is aware about this karma phala asakti. He is aware about Ishwara Arpana Bhavana. He is aware about the grand cosmic design of this Lord. And he keeps samatva in the mind, does not get affected by the ups and downs of life. So, keeps a balance in life, whereas Ayukta is a person who does not have any this kind of understanding. So, Nishkam Karma, a lot of time it is said that Karma Yoga, how can it be done without any desires? But this is a wrong understanding of Karma Yoga. It is not that there are no desires. There is definitely a prayojana. There is definitely a purpose behind all actions. So there is no action which is without a purpose or an intention. May it be a selfish or a selfless, may it be sakama or nishkama. So all actions definitely have a purpose, an intention. But selfless actions, nishkam karma, have the motive, prayojana is different, and the prayojana of selfish action is different. So prayojana is different. Desires are always there. Prayojana is more like a vritti in the antakarana, and this purifying this vritti is what is the part of our karma yoga or the sadhana. So ultimately the idea is to go from the tamasic vrittis to the more rajasic vrittis and then elevate and improve them to more sattvic vrittis, spend our time in more sattvika karma, satkarma, sadbhavana, and then finally leave all these desires and achieve the divinity. So that is the ultimate goal of our sadhana. Sarva karmani manasa sannasyaste sukham vashi navatvare pure dehi naiva purvanna karayan. So now the pure Atmagnana part starts, where Lord Krishna says a person who is a vashi. Vashi means who has his inner mind under control, vasha, where his mind and senses are under his control. This person, sarva karmani manasa sannyasa, renouncing all actions by his mind, intellect, by his knowledge, understanding. He lives in this body which has 9 gates, navat dware pure dehi. So there are 7 gates on the face and there are 2 other gates of excretion. So there are total 9 gates, and it is said that this body is like a pura. Pura means nagara. Nagara is a city with 9 gates. And this person, the Dehi, the Atma or the Jiva, the Jivatma, he feels that he is the person who lives in this body and he is not doing anything, he is not getting anything done. So neither he has Kartrutva nor he has Karayitrutva. Means he does not do anything, he does not get anything done by anybody. He is not that because of the Atma, the Anatma is doing. It's only the presence of the Atma that makes the Anatma Chaitanya. So that is what is the understanding of the Vedanta. That Atma is the Akarta Swarupa, Anatma is where all the karma happens, and there is no Sangha between the two. Both are Asanga. Atma is completely Asanga from the Anatma. But it's only in the presence of the Atma and this consciousness, this Chaitanya, that the Anatma gets illuminated, gets the life, gets the energy, and does everything. So all this karma, though they are done in Anatma, they are done because of the Atma, but there is Atma is completely Asanga. So this is the understanding of the wise person, and he lives sukham aste. In this city with 9 gates, this body, he lives very happily, very, very happily with eternal bliss. So we all live in our body, but most of us don't recognize that we are living in our body. Most of us feel that, we are the body, we are the person, we are the, being, but we never think that we are sitting. It's something like when we are sitting in the car and the car is moving, we say, I am moving. We don't realize that I am sitting and the car is moving. But we identify ourselves with the car and we say, I am going, I am moving, I am going to this place. So that is how is the understanding. Na kartrutvam na karmani lokasya srujati prabhuhu na karma phala sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. So this is a description of the pure Atma Swarupa, consciousness, and Bhagavan says here that lokasya srujati prabhuhu. For the world, for this world, loka, Prabhu here does not mean the incarnate Lord. It means the Atma Swarupa, because this is the prakaran of the Shuddha Atma Swarupa Gnana, and that's why it will mean Atma or Purusha. Does not create the Kartrutva, Karmani, Karma Phala Sanyoga. All these things, Kartrutva, doership, Karma, and Karma Phala Sanyoga, the attachment, all this does not happen, is not in the Atma. So this is where it says Swabhava Pravartate, but happens in the nature. Swabhava means Prakriti, the nature, Anatma, which is Anatma Kshetra. So here it does a clear distinction between Atma, Anatma. All these karma, Kartrutva, Karma Phala, Sanyoga, attachments, all these are part of Anatma. They are not the part of the consciousness, but they are part of the Anatma portion, that is the body, the mind, the intellect, the Indriya, all these are the Anatma portion. So Prakriti is of two types, the Jagata and the Sansara. So Prakriti Parampara, which the God has created, is the nature cycle, which is called Jagata, which is a kind of Sukha. It is quite happy, there is no problem. But when the Jiva comes in this Jagata, he adds a lot of his own judgments and he creates the Sansara, because he has a lot of judgments. I like this, I don't like this, this is good, this is bad. We keep putting labels on things, and this judgmental attitude of humans creates the Sansaras, creates the problems, creates all the miseries. And the root cause of this is, of course, Ajnana, which presents in the individual as Avidya, and collectively it presents as Maya. So it is part of the same Maya, then this is Avidya. And only Atma Jnana can liberate this person from Sansara. So Jagat plus the Jeev, when he puts all these, it creates a Sansara, which is the cause for bondage. Jagat itself is very Sukhad. So for the Atma Jnani, for the person who is Atma Jnana, his Jeev Parampara is already neutralized. He doesn't have any Sansara, because he does not have Raga Dvesha, he does not put labels, he does not have judgments, he does not have very strong likes, dislikes, he does not have very strong expectations, he accepts whatever comes to him, and that's why he doesn't have any Dukkha or Sansara. For him, it's only the Prakriti or the nature cycle which is ongoing. He has to live till his body is there, he performs all the actions with utmost dedication, whatever needs to be done, he does his duty, but he does not get attached and does not get the bondage. Nadatte kasyachit papam na chaiva sukrutam vibhuhu ajnanena vrutam jnanam veda muhyanti jantavaha. So here again, Lord Krishna gives a good viveka between what is Atma, Anatma, what is Purusha, what is Prakriti. It says Vibhuhu, the omnipresent consciousness, eternal consciousness, the cosmic consciousness, Atma. Na adatte kasyachit papam na eva sukrutam. Sukrutam means papa and punya. So the Atma does not perceive or does not have or does not keep any sins or good deeds, neither papa nor punya. It is not there in the Atma. He says it is only because of the Ajnana, and because the self-knowledge is obscured by this ignorance or Ajnana, and which is the cause for the bondage or all these attachments which are there in the Anatma. And this creates all the Papa, Punya, Sukha, Dukkha, all this is created in the Anatma. It is not in the omnipresent consciousness. Vibhuhu, usme nahi hai ye. Anatma mein hai, Atma mein nahi hai. So in these two shlokas, Lord Krishna clearly makes the Atma, Anatma, Viveka. He says God does not create any Sukha, Dukkha, Sansara. All this is created by the Jeev because of his ajnana. He creates all the miseries. It is all self-created by us. It is not created by, we commonly blame the Lord to give me so much of dukkha, this, that, the other. But we don't realize that it is not that he has created this dukkha. It is all out of our ignorance that we have created this. And the only solution to this is Atma Swarupa Jnana, which will destroy this wheel of ignorance, and the vision of the reality will become completely clear. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham adityavach jnanam prakashayati tatparam. So here Lord Krishna gives an example of sunlight, and he talks about the jnana, that one whose ignorance is destroyed by this Atma Jnana. Just like a sunlight illuminates, everything. When it comes, it destroys the darkness and illuminates everything. Similarly, when the Jnana is prapta, Jnana is not something that we have to achieve or it is produced. It is just we have to know. So when this self-knowledge occurs, it illuminates this consciousness. It shows us not just Swaprakasha, shows us our own real self, but also Paraprakasha. It shows us that this consciousness is the one which illuminates everything in this universe. It is a part of the eternal consciousness. So this Brahmagnan, this Atmagnan is possible. So karma and jnana, these are the two main subjects of all these 3rd, 4th and the 5th adhyaya. And this are very important because these are the two things that we in our lifetime always devote all our time to. Either we are doing some karma, either we are in action, or we are learning something, we are understanding something, we are in the jnana. So whether karma is more important, jnana is more important. Jnana can be thought of as something like a theory, part of the knowledge, whereas karma is the practical part of the knowledge. So this is the theory, understanding, and karma is the practice. Now which one is more important? The theory is more important or the practice is more important? In a sense, both are important. Both are interrelated to each other. One does one karma without the understanding, ajnana, jnana ke bina, that is disaster. If we just keep accumulating knowledge and we don't practice, then it is also disaster, because then we cannot assimilate that jnana in ourselves. We don't know, we have not done the practice part. So karma basically has the power to change an object. Karma, if we do, we may either create an object. By doing some creativity, we can change an object, we can put some colors on or put a painting, change the object, or we can destroy something by doing karma. So it basically has a power to change, create a change in the outer objects. That is the karma. Whereas the knowledge does not have this power, because knowledge is only, it illuminates the object. Basically whatever is the object, it will tell us. Suppose there is a red flower, and it will tell us with the Chakshu Indriya, will tell me that this is a red rose, and that is the knowledge. So it illuminates, it just shows what is, rather than creating any change in the object. So karma is something that we need to do. Knowledge is something we need to know inside, and both these are important. So we have to do and know, because once we do, we know, and we have to know and we have to do, because we know with the understanding. If we do, then it is even better. Now Atma is not an object, and it is not to be changed. It need not be changed. It just needs to be known. It is already there. This consciousness is everywhere. It is eternally. We are all part of that. But we have to understand this. We have to know this. We have to feel this. We have to perceive this. And it is there. We need to know this. So this jnana is not something that we need to produce, but we need to know. So Atmajnana is only to be known. It is not to be done. So karma has a limit. Karma cannot lead us to jnana. Karma can lead us to antakarana shuddhi. Karma can lead us to the jnana sadhana. But finally, at the end, it is said that it is the divine grace, of course, and it is that knowledge, that understanding, which is the most important for us to lead to that freedom or the moksha that we all want badly in this world. Tad buddhayastadaatmanam tannishthaastatparayanaha gachantyah punaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha. So in the first line of this shloka, Lord Krishna talks about the 4 steps of the Jnana Sadhana. After Antakarana Shuddhi, what we need to do to achieve this Jnana, how we can reach to this ultimate knowledge that he has shown. He says, Tad Buddhayasta. We have to surrender our intellect, meaning we have to make a firm resolution, because the function of the intellect, the buddhi, is to take decisions. So we have to take a firm decision that we want to go on this path, we want to understand this divinity, we have to reach to the Supreme, and for this we need to do Shravana. Shravana is the Vedanta Shravana from the Guru Mukha. So we have to learn from the learned person, we have to learn this by their teachings. And after the Shravana, Tat Atmanam, we have to aspire to become one with the Atma, because after Shravana, there will be a lot of doubts. We may be in Trikoti whether to do this or this. The karma is good or jnana is good, just like Arjuna. We may also have many questions, what we should do, what we should not do. So these doubts, this sanshaya, have to be weeded out from our mind by a process called manana. And manana uses a lot of logic, a lot of prakriyas, a lot of methods, so that we can remove this sanshaya or these doubts. And then the third step is tannishtha. We have to have our firm resolution that we want to change our previous sanskaras and develop new sanskaras. So anatmakar sanskaras have to be changed to atmakar sanskaras. And this is a gradual process. It takes years, sometimes lifetimes, many lives to change this, because the old sanskaras are very dhrada, very strong, and to change this, it's a sadhana. We have to do this continuously. And Bhagavan says in the 6th Adhyaya, Shanaihi Uparamet, only gradually the change will happen. It does not happen overnight. It will happen very gradually, and this is done by a process of meditation called Nididhyasana, which is a Vedantic meditation. So we'll come to that in the 6th Adhyaya, because the 6th Adhyaya talks all about this Nididhyasana and Vedantic meditation. And finally, one has to be Parayana, completely devoted. The only goal is Paramatma, only goal is Brahma, Atma, that is the only goal. And with this, if we Parayana and we devote ourselves to this Jnana Sadhana, we will definitely reach there one day. So this is a Jnana Sadhana. In the second line, Lord Krishna talks about the 2 phala of this Jnana, Atma Jnana. And he says it is the freedom, the mukti. Jnana Nirdhuta Kalmashaha means all the impurities are destroyed, are washed away by this Atma Jnana, because it is so pure, it is so pious that it will destroy all our impurities, make our mind completely clean and pure. And Apunara Gachanti means we achieve liberation from this. Punarabhruttim means coming back again and again in this Sansar Chakra, coming back, going back, coming back, again going, coming back. So we don't have to do this. We are released from this cycle of birth and death, and we achieve what is called as a moksha. And this moksha, what Apunarabhruttim, is the moksha after the death, because this is the absence of coming back. So this is called Videha Mukti. But that is not the main goal of the Vedanta Jnana. The main purpose of Vedanta Jnana is the Jivan Mukti. In this very life, in this very Jivana, we get complete freedom from all the pains, miseries, bondages that we feel, we have, we perceive. And with this knowledge, we can have an eternal bliss, eternal happiness, and that is the real mukti, that is the Jivan Mukti. And after Jivan Mukti, when the body does not remain, then it leads to Videha Mukti. So this is the Jnana Phala, or the fruits of the action of this Jnana. What is the real purpose of this Jnana? And once this Jnana is obtained, what happens? What is the drashti of the wise people after the Atma Jnana? He says, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakescha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So Lord Krishna says here that this wise person becomes Samadarshinaha. Pandita, the wise people, they see oneness everywhere. They will see the oneness between the Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmana, who is wise and humble. Gavi means a cow, and Hastini means an elephant. Shuni is a dog, and Shvapake is an outcast or a chandala. So in all these are all of different guna. Brahmana is called a sattvic guna, Gavi, Hastini are rajasic, whereas Shuni and Shvapaka are the tamasic. So in all these, The wise person has a samatvi drashti, he sees the sameness, samatva. And our Guruji says samatva is a sadhana because it's part of the journey, but it's also the goal, because once we reach that, our drashti, sama, Brahma is also sama. That is what Lord Krishna will say in the next shloka. So samatta or equipoise or oneness, seeing one in all, how this person, this wise person can see oneness in all these Brahmana, cow, dog, elephant. I mean, how is this possible to see oneness? That is a question that will come. Now for the aspirant, it will be by practice, by some kind of a pursuit that we need to achieve this. But for the sadhak, for the sadhya, the accomplished yogi, it will be sahaj, it will be very natural. For the unwise, because of the raga dvesha, we see all the differences because our drashti is on the forms and the shapes. Whereas the wise does not have this raga dvesha and is able to see the divinity which is. So behind this, what is this adhishthana or the divinity, that almighty which is there? We very commonly say God lives in us as antaryami. So if we can see this divinity in everyone, in every moment, in every self, in everywhere, in every kan, in every kshan, then that person sees this oneness in all these differences. And that depends on our own vision to see whether we can see the oneness or we can see the discriminations of all these forms and shapes in this world. So it depends on our own vision. Ihaiva tairjita sargo yesham samya sthitam manaha nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te sthitaha. So here Lord Krishna says what is the goal of human life. It is to achieve this samatva darshana, Brahma, because Brahma is sama, that's what he says. Brahma is nirdosha and Brahma is sama. He says, Iha evate jita sargaha. So they have won, they have truly won this world. Here only, Ihaiva jita sargaha. This world has been won. So this victory of these people, by whom? For the people whose mind is firmly established in this one Samaswarupa Brahma. So that is the real victory. He says in this life, if somebody has seen this Samaswarupa Brahma, and because Brahma is Nirdosha and Sama, that is the true Swarupa of Brahma. It is Nirdosha, it does not have any dosha, and it is a Samaswarupa, it is Samatva, it is same everywhere. There is no ups and downs or differences that this is better, this is not better. This is here the Brahma is more, here the Brahma is less. There is no such differences. It is the same everywhere. Tasmate Brahmani sthitaha means that is the person who has already is one with this established in Samatva, is rooted in Brahma. So a person who is rooted in Brahma, he is rooted in Samatva. Somebody who is rooted in Samatva is rooted in Brahma, because Brahma is Sama and Brahma is Nirdosha. That is what Lord Krishna says here. So this is a true vision. It is Sarvatra Samadarshana, Sarvatra Samatva Darshana. That is a true victory over oneself. And it is the inner engineering that we need to do. That is the part of our Adhyatmic sadhana. We have to keep on changing our own mind, our own beliefs, our own thoughts, our own understanding. And we have to make sure that we don't get affected by too much of worldly situations, because ultimately it will not give us any eternal bliss. But for the seeker, it is a part of the journey, and we must not give too much importance to these worldly objects. The Gita Ji also talks about Samatva, and the message of Gita Ji, the central message is to be in this Samatva. An entire spiritual journey is also to achieve this balance in our own self and to avoid the ups and downs or the ups and downs of life, and all acceptance on all these ups and downs. So outer world keeps changing, which is not under my control, whereas my own mind is under my control, and I can decide to keep it calm, sama, in the midst of this chaos. And that's why the entire spiritual journey is to work on our own mind. My goal is my peace of mind. It is my responsibility. It cannot be somebody else's responsibility. So there are several attitudes to achieve this samatva: by being proactive, acceptance of any result, looking for long-term solutions, adverse situations, asking for help, firm resolve to keep our peace of mind at any cost. And samatva does not mean that we become emotionless, but we have to learn to manage our emotions. And samatva teaches us that we can remain in the now without any tensions, stresses of the past or of the future. And so we live in the present moment, in the now. न प्रहस्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नो द्विजेत् प्राप्य चाप्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः. So here Lord Krishna talks about sthira buddhi, person who is intellect, is focused on one, and asammudha, person who has no attachments. How he lives, he does not get too elated, neither he gets very upset whenever he gets something or he does not get something, but he remains firmly established in this Atma Jnana, which is Sama Swarupa, Brahma. Brahma and Atma is almost the same. It's the same in Vedanta. Atma is the consciousness, and an eternal universal consciousness is called as Brahma in Vedanta. So both are synonymous words. So this is what Lord Krishna says, and that this is the part of the sadhana, to see the oneness in all the differences and to lead us to Purna Samatva, and that is from sadhaka we have to go towards becoming a Jnani. So Sthira Buddhi is a person who has determined intellect. My responsibility is mine to make sure that my goal is clearly established, what is the purpose of my life, and every moment of my life I must commit to this goal, for this higher goal that I need to achieve, and try to assimilate whatever I've learned in my life, in my own life. So we should not think that the Adhyatmic life or the Adhyatmic sadhana is different and the worldly sadhana or the worldly life is different. These are not two paths. Whatever I learned on the Adhyatmic or the spiritual side, I have to assimilate and put it into the practice in the life, and that's how we have to make this merge, both these lives, make it one, and that is the goal. So this is where I have to use my intellect. I must be clearly understand this. And asammudha means a person who does not have any attachment. We must understand that it is the moha that dilutes our vision, and how this moha works. False identification is the first thing. Ahankara, I, with my body, my mind, and then with this false identification, we feel that all this is mine. These are my loved ones. These are my people. These are my friends. These are my parents. These are my family. This mamakara, and this, the root cause of this moha is ajnana. False identification is our body-mind complex, and it is a self-knowledge which destroys this moha and makes us asammudha. So Gnani does not have any identification with his body-mind complex, and that's why he is completely nirmohi, does not have any attachments, and he lives in this world without, like a Padmapatra Mimam Basa. In the next shloka, Lord Krishna says, what is the understanding of this Gnani, and that where is the real happiness, whether it is outside or whether it is inside. It says, Bahya Sparsheshva Saktatma Vidyatmani Yat Sukham Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma Sukhamakshayam Ashnute. It says, Bahya Sparsheshu Saktatma, that the seeker or the Jnani is unattached to the outer happiness by the contact of the senses with the objects, because this is the outer happiness. And what he does is, he obtains his eternal happiness in his own self by meditation. Sabrahma Yoga Yuktatma, the balanced person who is firmly connected with the Brahma, he experiences the everlasting happiness or the divine bliss. So here Lord Krishna talks about two things. One is the outer happiness and one is inner happiness. What is this? Vishaya Sukha, outer happiness which comes from the objects, whereas Atma Sukha is something that comes from inside. And Upanishad always tells us that all our happiness is inside us. So Vishaya Sukha comes from outside, externally from the objects, and this is by the sanyoga or samsarga with the senses, that is the indriya and the vishaya, the objects. And this is more like a dependent sukha. It is paradhin, because we are dependent on the objects. We are dependent on the objects for that happiness, and it is very transient. It satisfies us very transiently, and then again that desire happens. So it gives rise to a lot of anxiety, especially when this object is not available to us. Then we become more stressful, and Ajnani live in this world like this, craving for this Vishaya Sukh, which does not help him to progress. And it is, according to Vedanta, it's a trushna, it's an illusion that the Sukha comes from outside objects. Brahma Sukha or Atma Sukha is a Sukha that we experience within. inside in our own self. So when we talk of outside and inside, the body is also outside. Body is not inside us. What is inside us is our, we are talking about our mind, our intellect, our soul. That is what we are talking. Because here, senses need not be in contact with the objects. It is independent. It is permanent, everlasting. It keeps us fully satisfied. It gives us eternal peace. And the wise people, they get their sukha or their happiness from inside. So Sikar who is on the journey, he has to first learn to let go some Vishaya Sukha, because Vairagya is important. You have to first try and let go some Vishaya Sukha, some Vairagya must be there, some Mahatva Buddhi in the worldly affairs. By understanding, by this Vairagya is by Viveka, it's by the right understanding that this Vishaya is not going to give me everlasting peace or happiness that I want. With this understanding, we keep leaving this let go, and this let go of the Vishaya is not like, it's a negative way. Vairagya is not a negative connotation that you have to suppress the desires. It is not like that. It's a false understanding. Actually, it's a sublimation of these desires. Means with the right understanding, we just let go them. We understand that this is not important for me, for my goal is different in life, and that's how we let go this. So that is how we have to let go. That is the kind of Vairagya that Vedanta talks about. And only then we will try to understand, we will be able to sit in silence, we will be able to experience the inner bliss that we have. For this, the mind has to be very quiet, it has to be less chanchala, it has to be sthira. With this, if we do meditation, then we will see and we will experience, we will feel this inner bliss or the Atma Sukha or the Brahma Sukha. So the wise person, he is one with this inner happiness, and it does not crave for external happiness. Yehi sansparshaja bhoga dukkhayo nava evate adhyantavanta kaunteya nateshu ramate buddha. So in this, Lord Krishna deprecates the sense gratification. He says that they cause dukkha. They are the cause for. We believe that these sense objects give us happiness, pleasure. Lord Krishna tells us that no, they are dukkha yonava, they give you miseries. So because our understanding is not the correct understanding then. Sansparsha ja bhoga means the pleasures that we obtain by the contact of the senses with the outer objects. Sansparsha means contact. So contact of the indriya and the vishaya, whatever pleasures we obtain by this kind of sansparsha, these are the sense pleasures or the sense gratification, and they are the cause for miseries. Because transiently we may feel the pleasure, happiness, we may feel it, it's not that truly we are happy, but because they don't remain there, they are adhyantavanta, they are very transient, they come and go. But because they don't remain there, when they go away, we again feel the pain, we again feel the misery. Why this object is not there, why this person is not with me, so that gives me the pain. That is one. And if I don't get it again, if I have a liking, I have a raga for that particular object or particular person and I don't have it, then I'll feel again the pain. So all this pain and misery is because those objects are all transient. This happiness that creates, they are all transient, they are adhyanta vantaha. So clearly Lord Krishna says, this is the nature and we have to see it in this way. So wise do not indulge in them. Na teshu ramate buddha. The wise people don't indulge in these kind of sense pleasures, sense gratifications, because they are all very transient, they come and go, they are not eternal, they will not give eternal peace, they will keep us paradhin, dependent on outside, they will not make us completely happy, and that's why the wise people don't indulge in them. So what Lord Krishna wants us to do, we are of course, human beings want happiness, that's what we want. All our actions, all our inactions, everything that we do in this life, everything that we don't do is for getting happiness, becoming happy. That is the primary thing for everyone. And we also don't want any pain along with this happiness. We want Shuddha, pure happiness, only happiness. And we want this happiness to be permanent. We don't want it to be temporary. We don't want that happiness to come and go away. So essentially all of us want moksha. But we don't know that we want moksha. That we want this permanent happiness. We want this permanent peace of mind. We want to be eternally happy. This is what all of us yearn for. but we are not aware about it, and that's why we run in different or wrong direction to get happiness. But this is what we all yearn for, is what is moksha. It is the freedom, complete freedom from all the pain, miseries of this world, and becoming happy ever, all the time, is what we all want. But unfortunately, uncontrolled sense gratification is not going to give us this. It's the opposite actually. It will give us more pain. It will not make us happy. And that's why we have to understand that this Ishvara Srushti, the Jagat, is a Sukhada, but the Jeev Srushti, the Sansara, is the Raga Dvesha, it's the Dukhada. And that's why if we just remain indulging in these kind of sense pleasures and gratifications, we will not be able to understand this Atma Sukha or inner self, which is the eternal happiness, because the Swarupa of our inner self is a Sat, Chit and Ananda. Ananda is the bliss, it is the eternal bliss, that is the Swarupa of this Atma or the consciousness. But we will never be able to feel this if we persist our senses in these external objects and go for this gratification. Shaknoti haivaya sodum prakshavira vimokshanat kama krodha bhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi naraha. So again, in this adhyaya, Lord Krishna talks about Kama and Krodha, because these are the two biggest problems for us. It will not allow us to experience this eternal bliss, that divine happiness that is there as our Atma Swarupa. It will not allow us, and that's why he again and again stresses this in almost all adhyayas, that Kama Krodha Bhavam Vegam. It's a big, who is a truly happy person? He says Sasukhi Naraha. That is a truly happy person who is able to control in this very life, is able to control the forces of desire, the impulses of desire and anger. He says Kama Krodha Bhavam Vegam. There is an impulse with which they come, and this force or this impulse of desires and anger is it is our responsibility to control this. Nobody else can do that for me. I have to do this work for myself, and I have to do this in this very life before the death, before Sharira Vimokshana, before the body comes to an end. I have to do this work. And that person who has done this work, he is the true yogi. He is a Yukta Purusha, he is a yogi, and he is a really happy person. That's what Lord Krishna says here. And that's why we have to control our Kama Krodha. Of course, it is a difficult, and that's why Lord Krishna is stressing again and again, because these are the root of all the other vices. All the other vices like Moha, Lobha, greed, attachments. Mada means our pride, Katrutva, Abhimana. Matsarya is jealousy. All these other vices come because of Kama Krodha, and Kama is the central, because Kama, if it is not, our desires are not fulfilled, it will lead us to anger, Krodha. So Kama is the central vice, and we must realize that my peace of mind is my most valuable asset, and I have to make it a priority. You must understand that if I don't have peace of mind, I will not progress in this life, not on the spiritual, neither in the worldly world also. And for this to manage, there are several temporary and long-term solutions that we have seen, how to manage this Kama and Krodha, how we can, use all these temporary solutions. And we should not accept anger as a vice. We should accept anger as a vice. We should never justify anger, and we should take a firm resolution to come out of it. And daily we should make resolutions and do introspection so that we can come out of anger. The permanent solution to destroy this Kama, Krodha, Vega is to see this oneness of Chaitanya, this Atma Swarupa, and with this understanding we forgive people. We look this world like a drama, an illusion of the Maya, and we must understand that each human being is conditioned by his own habits and behaves in his own sweet little way. I don't have any control over how others behave, and that's why I can only have control over how my mind works, and this is the place where I have to create the peace of my mind, and I must leave these desires. I must scrutinize my desires and see if they are really essential. If they are not essential, then let go them. And finally, one day I have to leave everything. All the desires, all the anger, everything has to be left. Then why not I start and leave living this my lifetime to achieve my peace of mind. And that's when our Guruji tells us that occasionally one can do an anger drama, as parents, as teachers, or as a good friend for the welfare of our children, students, or friend, where the anger can be under our control for a moment. We may become angry to give a point, to tell a particular message, and next moment I am back to my original self. I don't have any raga, dvesha, I don't insult somebody, I have my peace of mind which is established. And again, God stresses, we must remember that kama, krodho, bhavam, yogam, one who controls his sasukhi naraha is a person who is truly happy, who is able to control his anger and desire. And this is something that we must do it, we must do it now, and we must not postpone or postpone these kind of things for the future. Yontah sukhontara rama tathantara jyotireva yaha sayogi brahma nirvanam brahma bhutodhikachati. So Lord Krishna talks about the attributes of the wise, who is antar sukha, whose happiness is inside, his antarama, whose peace, pleasure is also inside, and his antar jyoti, his light of knowledge is also inside. That is a person who is a yogi, who is one with the Brahma, and he achieves this liberation. Brahma nirvana adhigachati, achieves the moksha. Labhante brahma nirvanam rushaya shina kalmashaha chinnadvedhaya tatmanaha sarvabhuta hite rataha. So he calls these rushayaha, rishis, who have seen this tattva. They are, how do they live? They live for the betterment of others. Sarvabhuta hite rataha yatatmanaha. Their mind, senses are under control. Chinnadveda, they have cleared all their doubts in their mind about Jagata, Jiva, Ishvara. Kshena kalmashaha, all their sins have also been washed off completely. And these rishis, they achieve this moksha, freedom from all these worldly affairs. So again, tattva is the foundation or the adhisthana, which is the anaropitakara, where there is no identification of form. It is the essence. Just like mati is the essence for all the different forms like ghata, or suvarna, or is the gold is the essence for all the gharanas or all the forms and shapes of different jewelry. So similarly, the root element tattva is the essence, the pure eternal consciousness is the essence, is the adhisthana on which all these forms and shapes can be adhyasta or are adhyasta. And that tattvam, that you are the one with the eternal consciousness, this oneness is the ultimate climax or the knowledge of the Vedanta. This aikya, this oneness, ours with the entire universe is something that we have to understand. Kama krodha viyuktanam yatinam yata chetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmanam. So in this shloka, this is the final shloka of the 5th adhyaya, culmination of the Sankhya Yogi. He says, Kama krodha viyuktanam, devoid of these desires, anger, yatinanam, who constantly puts efforts, yata chetasam, whose mind is balanced, viditatmanam, who has known his self, his own self. That person achieves and lives in eternal peace, becomes truly independent, and that is the completion of the first adhyaya. And now the last 3 shlokas of the 5th adhyaya are about dhyana, because this is a link to the 6th adhyaya, which is the dhyana yoga. In the 27th shloka, Krishna says, Sparshan krutva bahir bahyan chakshushchaivantare dhruvoho pranapanau samau krutva nasabhyantara charinau. He says, in meditation we have to control our thoughts, keep the outer objects, the thoughts of all the outer objects, we should keep them outside. All our external objects should be outside. Even if they are inside, we should just keep it outside during meditation. Focus our eyebrows or our gaze on the center of the forehead, Agya Chakra. Keep our prana and apana, the breathing inside and outside, in balance, and keep our breath in balance by practicing pranayama, because there is a close relationship between the breath and the mind. The moment the prana or the breath becomes sama or controlled, the mind also quietens down. So this is how Lord Krishna tells us to do meditation. Yatendriya mano buddhihi muni moksha parayanaha vigatechha bhaya krodho yah sada mukta eva saha. So it talks about the meditator, the dhyata, the one who does the meditation, what he should be, that person. It's like a muni, a mananashila person who uses his mind, intellect to attain the divinity, supreme knowledge. Yata Indriya Mana Buddhi. He keeps all these senses, mind and intellect under control. He is Moksha Parayana, whose goal of life is to become free from all these miseries. Vigata Ichha Bhaya Krodha. He has already let go of his desires, fears and anger, because if you have these desires, fear and anger, it will not allow us to do proper meditation. So this is the kind of a person who can come on this path of Dhyana Yoga and do meditation and become free, Mukta. You can become Sada Mukta. And this is the final shloka of the 5th Adhyaya. Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surudam Sarva Bhutanam Pinatva Mam Shantim Mruchyati. That is the Adhyaya Samapti, where Bhagavan shows his own Sopadik Swarupa, how he is there in this world. And he says, Bhoktaram Yagna Tapasam. He says, I am the Bhokta of all the Yagna and all the Tapa. So he is the Bhokta. He says, I am the Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. He is the Lord of all the beings, all the lokas. Surudam Sarva Bhutanam, and a friend. And of course, the nourisher, the protector of all the beings without any reciprocation, bhavana. And if somebody knows me in this way, that I am there universally in every moment, in every kshana, in every kana, in every particle, in every antaryatma, in every being, I am the Suruda, I am the Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, and the Bhokta, Karta of all this karma. Everything is through me. I am the giver, I am the nourisher, I am the survivor or everything. If somebody knows me in this way, he achieves eternal bliss, because he attains this Aikya and this Samadhi and attains me in my real form. That is the Sopadik Swarupa, because he is talking about the Karta Bhokta Swarupa of the Bhagavana, which is the Sopadik Swarupa. It is not the Nirupadik Satchit and the Ananda Akarta Swarupa, which is a different Swarupa of Bhagavan. So this is how, but he does not talk about the incarnate Swarupa here, because that's not his true Swarupa. According to Bhagavan, even his Sopadik Swarupa is not the incarnate. He doesn't talk about any of his incarnations, that this is my real Swarupa, because he says that his real Swarupa is not this incarnate Swarupa, but it is the Sopadik and the Nirupadik Swarupa, which we should meditate while we meditate on this. So with this we come to the end of the 5th Adhyaya. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavat Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Sannyasa Yogo Nama Panchamodhyayaha Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Ma Shuchaha. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parah Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.